the scrapyard's pride. The USS Tetris looked exactly like what it was. A collection of salvaged parts held together by determination, duct tape, and what the engineers generously called creative problem-solving. As the ship approached the gleaming Galactic assembly station, every sensor array from 100 different alien vessels turned to stare at what could only be described as an insult to spacefaring civilization. Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge, which still smelled faintly of the fast food restaurant it used to be, before being converted into a command center. The main view screen was actually 17 different monitors of varying sizes arranged in a pattern that gave most people headaches. One of them was currently displaying a rerun of an old Earth sitcom, because nobody could figure out how to change the channel. "Captain, we're receiving multiple transmissions," announced Communications Officer Janet Park, who was sitting in what used to be a luxury car seat, bolted to the floor. She adjusted her headset, which was held together with electrical tape. "Most of them are asking if we need emergency assistance. 3 are offering to tow us to the nearest scrapyard. 1 thinks we're modern art." Marcus chuckled and ran his hand through his graying hair. The USS Tetris was humanity's 3rd attempt at building an interstellar warship, and honestly, it showed. After the first 2 ships had been destroyed in freak accidents involving a malfunctioning coffee maker and an unfortunate misunderstanding with a space whale, Earth's governments had basically thrown their hands up and told the military to build something with whatever they could find. The result was magnificent in its absolute lack of magnificence. The hull was a patchwork of different metals, ceramics, and in one section, what appeared to be compressed garbage because someone had read that it could absorb radiation. The ship's shape defied all known laws of aerodynamics, though that didn't matter much in space. It looked like someone had played Tetris badly and then decided to fly the result. "Open a channel to the station," Marcus ordered, settling into his captain's chair, which creaked ominously. It had been salvaged from a demolished movie theater and still had cup holders. The face that appeared on the main screen belonged to Controller Vexthai of the Meridian Coalition. The aliens' crystalline features arranged themselves in what Marcus had learned was disapproval. "Human vessel, this is unexpected. Our records indicated your species had achieved faster than light travel, but your ship appears to be, how do I put this diplomatically, held together by hope and primitive adhesives?" "That's actually pretty accurate," Marcus admitted cheerfully. "The adhesives are quite advanced, though. We call it duct tape, miracle stuff." Several of the bridge crew tried not to laugh. They had learned that the best way to deal with alien condescension was to lean into it. Let them think humans were idiots flying a garbage pile. It made things much more interesting when the truth came out. The Tetris docked at the station, though docking was a generous term for what actually happened. The ship sort of bumped into the docking arm, got stuck, and everyone agreed that was close enough. The docking clamps couldn't quite figure out where to attach to the irregular hull, so they just grabbed whatever looked sturdy. As Marcus and his diplomatic team walked through the station's pristine corridors, they left a trail of confused stares. The station was a marvel of engineering, all flowing curves and harmonious design. Every surface gleamed with purpose and beauty. The humans, in their mismatched uniforms that included at least 3 different types of boots per person, looked like they had gotten lost on their way to a costume party. The council chamber was packed with representatives from dozens of species. The Zalathi Empire had the largest delegation, their sleek warships visible through the massive windows. The Zalathi were known for their aggressive expansion and their belief that military might determine the species' worth. Their ships were works of art, all sharp angles and hidden weapons, painted in colors that hurt to look at directly. Admiral Krixtor of the Zalathi stood as the humans entered. The insectoid aliens' compound eyes reflected Marcus's image 1,000 times, each one looking equally unimpressed. "So these are the humans," Krixtor's translator buzzed. "Your ship is an embarrassment to the very concept of space travel. It looks like you raided a junkyard and decided to see if it would fly." "Several junkyards, actually," Marcus corrected. "We're very thorough." The chamber filled with what Marcus assumed was laughter from various species. He didn't mind. The Tetris might look like trash, but it was their trash, and humans had a long history of making trash exceptionally dangerous. "Perhaps," suggested another alien, this one looking like a sentient cloud of gas in a containment suit, "the humans would benefit from a demonstration of proper military vessels. For educational purposes, Krixtor's mandibles clicked in what was definitely amusement. The Zalathi Empire volunteers to provide such education. Our newest destroyer, the Blade of Conquest, could show the humans what real engineering looks like. A simple exercise, nothing fatal. We wouldn't want to accidentally destroy their ship before they had a chance to learn. Marcus felt his tactical officer, Commander Lisa Chen, tense beside him. They both knew what this was. The Zalathi had a reputation for these educational exercises that ended with new species either submitting to their empire or being classified as too primitive to matter. We appreciate the offer, Marcus said calmly. The USS Tetris would be honored to participate in this exercise. The chamber went quiet. Most species had expected the humans to decline, to make excuses. The fact that they accepted what was obviously a trap made everyone reassess slightly. Were the humans brave or just too stupid to recognize danger? Excellent, Krixtor said. Tomorrow then. Standard engagement rules. Non-lethal weapons only, of course. The way he said it made it clear that Zalathi definitions of non-lethal were flexible. As the humans returned to their ship, Lisa finally spoke. Captain, they're going to try to humiliate us at best, destroy us at worst. I know, Marcus said, grinning. That's what makes it fun. Back on the Tetris, the crew prepared for battle in their own unique way. In the engine room, which was actually 3 different engine rooms connected by tubes that someone had stolen from a water park, Chief Engineer Roberto Martinez was explaining to his team why they needed to keep the coffee maker on Deck 4 running. It's not actually a coffee maker anymore, he said, patting the machine affectionately. I rewired it to regulate power flow to the starboard shields. If it stops percolating, we lose 30% coverage. In the weapons bay, where missiles were stored next to a surprisingly well-maintained hydroponics garden, because someone had misread the storage requirements. The weapons team was making final adjustments. The Tetris's weapons were a mix of everything Earth could cobble together. Railguns salvaged from old orbital platforms. Lasers bought secondhand from a species that had upgraded their mining equipment. Missiles that were basically just rockets with computers duct taped to them. Remember, said Weapons Chief David Thompson to his team, when in doubt, throw everything at them and see what sticks. The next morning, the Tetris departed the station with all the grace of a brick with engines. They moved toward the designated exercise area, where the Blade of Conquest waited. The Zalathi destroyer was everything the Tetris wasn't. It was sleek, efficient, and radiated menace. Its hull was a single piece of exotic metal that seemed to absorb light. Its weapons were hidden behind elegant panels that would iris open to unleash destruction. They're scanning us, Captain, reported Park. I think they're trying to figure out how we're even flying. Let them wonder, Marcus said, settling into his chair. All stations prepare for combat. Remember, we're not here to look pretty. We're here to survive. The exercise began with a single shot from the Blade of Conquest. A brilliant beam of energy lanced out, designed to overload shields and leave a ship helpless. It struck the Tetris directly on what should have been the shield generator. Instead, it hit a section of hull made from compressed aluminum cans that someone had insisted would work. The cans absorbed the energy, heated up, and started playing advertising jingles from 30 years ago at maximum volume. On the Blade of Conquest, Admiral Krixtor stared at his tactical display. What just happened? Unknown, Admiral, his weapons officer replied. The human ship appears to be singing. When junk becomes legend. The Tetris continued broadcasting ancient soda commercials into space as Captain Marcus Webb tried not to laugh. The look of confusion on every alien face watching the exercise was worth whatever happened next. The compressed aluminum can armor had been Lieutenant Rodriguez's idea after a very late night and too much caffeine. Nobody had expected it to actually do anything useful. Return fire, Marcus ordered. Let's show them what human engineering really means. The Tetris's response was unlike anything the Zalathi had ever seen. Instead of elegant beam weapons or precisely targeted missiles, the human ship essentially sneezed violence in the general direction of the Blade of Conquest. Railguns fired chunks of metal at velocities that shouldn't have been possible from such crude equipment. Lasers of 17 different frequencies fired simultaneously, creating a light show that would have been beautiful if it wasn't so destructive. And the missiles, the glorious missiles, each one following its own erratic path because their guidance systems were all from different decades and couldn't agree on anything. Admiral Krigstor watched in horror as his tactical display turned into chaos. The Blade of Conquest's defensive systems were designed to counter precise, predictable attacks. They were not designed to handle what could only be described as aggressive randomness. Shields holding at 70%, his officer reported, sounding confused. But sir, I don't understand their attack pattern. That's because there isn't one, Krigstor realized. The humans weren't fighting with strategy. They were fighting with barely controlled chaos. On the Tetris, Chief Engineer Martinez was having the time of his life. Reroute power from the Deck 7 freezer to the port weapons array, he shouted. And someone make sure the hamster wheel on Deck 3 keeps spinning. It's powering our targeting computer. The hamster wheel? Asked a junior engineer. We don't have a hamster, Martinez explained. It's a robot vacuum that got stuck. But if it stops moving, we lose 20% of our processing power. The battle continued to escalate. The Blade of Conquest, recovering from its surprise, began to fight back with its full arsenal. Elegant weapon systems deployed, each one a masterpiece of engineering that had taken decades to perfect. Quantum torpedoes that could phase through shields, gravity wells that could tear ships apart, energy beams that could overload any known defensive system. The Tetris took the hits and kept flying, not because it had advanced shields or exotic armor, but because it was too stupid to know it should be dead. The quantum torpedoes phased through shields that didn't exist consistently enough to phase through. The gravity wells tried to tear apart a ship that was already barely holding together, and the loose construction actually flexed with the forces instead of shattering. The energy beams hit sections of the ship that weren't connected to anything important, because half the ship wasn't connected to anything important. Captain, we've lost Deck 12, someone reported. What was on Deck 12? Marcus asked. The backup emergency toilet and a vending machine that nobody could get to work. Acceptable losses. Continue firing. Around the exercise area, hundreds of alien vessels watched in stunned silence. The Blade of Conquest, pride of the Zalathi fleet, was being fought to a standstill by what looked like a flying scrapyard. Every elegant maneuver was countered by random chance. Every precise strike was absorbed by some bizarre system that shouldn't exist. Then the Tetris did something nobody expected. It accelerated directly toward the Blade of Conquest. They're ramming us, Krigstor said in disbelief. That's suicide. But the Tetris wasn't ramming. At the last second, it released something from its cargo bay. Thousands of small objects tumbled toward the Zalathi ship. The point defense systems immediately targeted them, identifying them as primitive kinetic weapons. They were rubber ducks. Thousands and thousands of rubber ducks that someone had bought in bulk, because they were on sale and might be useful for something. They bounced off the Blade of Conquest's hull, doing absolutely no damage. But they did something else. They squeaked. The Zalathi ship's sensitive acoustic sensors, designed to detect the smallest vibrations in space, were suddenly overwhelmed by the sound of 10,000 rubber ducks squeaking in harmonious chaos. Every system that relied on those sensors went haywire. In that moment of confusion, the Tetris's real attack hit. A single missile, painted bright orange and with "Return to Sender" written on the side in permanent marker, slipped through the chaos. It wasn't a particularly advanced missile. In fact, it was basically a repurposed mining charge with a navigation system someone had pulled out of a 20-year-old car. But it hit exactly where it needed to. The Blade of Conquest primary power coupling, exposed for just a second as the ship tried to recalibrate its systems, took a direct hit. The Zalathi vessel didn't explode. It did something much more embarrassing. It turned off. The pride of the Zalathi fleet drifted powerless in space, surrounded by rubber ducks and still being serenaded by soda jingles from the Tetris. I think that's our win, Marcus said mildly. The communication system exploded with incoming messages. Every species watching wanted to know how the humans had done it. How had a ship held together with adhesive tape and hope defeated one of the most advanced vessels in known space? Admiral Krigstor, once his ship was powered back up, demanded answers. This is impossible. Your technology is primitive. Your ship is garbage. How did you win? Marcus opened a channel to respond. Behind him, his bridge crew was celebrating. Someone had brought out a cake from somewhere, though nobody was sure where they'd been hiding it. Admiral, you're right about our technology being primitive, Marcus said. But you're wrong about our ship being garbage. It's not garbage. It's every solution to every problem we've ever faced, all flying in formation. Your ships are designed to be perfect, Ours is designed to survive. He gestured to the chaotic bridge around him. You build ships that work perfectly until they don't. We build ships that barely work but never stop. Your defensive systems expect attacks that make sense. Our offensive systems don't make sense to us, so good luck predicting them. You have one perfect plan. We have 17 terrible plans happening simultaneously. The human philosophy of engineering was starting to make sense to the watching aliens, and it was terrifying. The humans didn't build ships. They built problems for everyone else. Every part of the Tetris, Marcus continued, is a solution to a problem we encountered. The aluminum can armor? We discovered by accident that it converts certain energy frequencies into sound. The rubber ducks? We needed something to confuse targeting systems, and someone found a warehouse full of them. The hamster wheel. Okay, that was actually an accident, but it worked, so we kept it. Over the following days, the USS Tetris became a legend. Not a legend of elegant design or superior technology, but a legend of what happens when a species is too stubborn to know when it's beaten. Other races started to realize that human ships weren't badly designed. They were designed by a species that had learned to turn every disadvantage into an unexpected advantage. The Zalathi Empire quietly withdrew their expansion plans toward human space. The Meridian Coalition offered a full alliance. The Quantum Collective asked if humans could help them understand chaos theory. And somewhere in the engineering deck of the Tetris, Chief Martinez patched another leak with duct tape and smiled. The galaxy had learned what Earth had known all along. It doesn't matter if it's pretty. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. What matters is that it works, and humans could make anything work. The USS Tetris continued its mission, held together by determination and adhesive products. Proof that sometimes the dumbest solution is the smartest one. The ship that looked like it had lost a fight with a junkyard had become the most feared vessel in known space. Not because it was powerful, but because nobody could figure out how it worked, including the humans flying it. As they departed the Galactic Assembly Station, now with full diplomatic recognition and several trade agreements that nobody quite understood how they'd negotiated, the Tetris left behind a changed galaxy. Alien engineers would spend decades trying to understand human technology, not realizing that the secret wasn't in the technology at all. The secret was that humans had learned the most important lesson of survival. When you can't be the best, be the most unpredictable. When you can't be the strongest, be the most adaptable. And when you can't build a proper warship, build something so impossibly stupid that it loops back around to being genius. The galaxy had wanted to teach humanity about proper spacefaring. Instead, humanity had taught the galaxy that proper was overrated. As the Tetris jumped to hyperspace, leaving a trail of confused sensors and rubber ducks in its wake, the message was clear. Humanity had arrived, and they'd brought their duct tape with them.